Marley, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today.
Yeah, you're pretty close, it's a bit more.
120.
250 to 350.
For an inhaler?
Yes.
Man, so if you're poor, you're dead.
The politics around the cost of healthcare in the UK and US played out in a viral video. Would you go on holiday to Syria? Some Instagrammers are doing just that. It's called dark tourism. The FARC does fashion a new look for Colombia's former rebels. And we've got the story behind Turkish coffee on World Turkish Coffee Day. Afiyet olsun. Well, top of our news feeds, the NHS is not for sale. That's a slogan for the British Labour Party, used in its campaign for the upcoming general election. It says the current Conservative government would allow US companies to bid for NHS contracts, making the health service in the UK more expensive. Now, the Conservatives say that won't happen, but now a video has gone viral showing British people shocked at the price of US healthcare, and it's got the attention of some US politicians too. Here's Adama.
Most British people relish the fact that one thing they definitely have over the United States is the National Health Service.
10 grand! For a baby!
Politics Joe shared a video of Brits being asked what they knew about the cost of healthcare in the US. Their reactions were a thing to behold.
An inhaler.
$100.
Yeah, you're pretty close, it's a bit more.
120.
250 to 350.
For an inhaler?
Yes.
Man, so if you're poor, you're dead.
The video has been watched more than 10 million times on Twitter and been shared by tens of thousands of people, including American politicians who are campaigning for better healthcare in the US.
Remember that our outrageous for-profit system is not the norm in other countries.
To our friends in the UK, please cherish, protect, and continue investing in your healthcare system. Once big pharma and special interests get their hands on it, it could take generations to regain.
The NHS was created in 1948. The idea that healthcare for people in the UK was and will always be free at the point of need.
Our plan is a service which will provide the best medical advice and treatment for everyone, every man, woman and child in this country. Whatever your income, if you want to use this service, and nobody's going to try to make you unless you want to, there'll be no charge for treatment.
It's such a national treasure. It was celebrated during London's 2012 Olympic opening ceremony. But the NHS is in trouble. It's facing mounting pressure from austerity measures and an aging population. Emergency rooms are overcrowded, there's a shortage of GPs and nurses, and long wait lists for even serious surgeries. Government spending on the NHS is a key battleground ahead of the UK's general elections next week.
That the NHS under no circumstances will be on the table.
The US has the most expensive medication anywhere in the world. And thanks to the viral video from Politics Joe, tens of millions now know what's at risk.
£300. $600. What? Why?
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that we saw on social media.
Yani bize Can Yaman'ın bu dünyadan olduğunu kanıtlayabilir misin? Kanıtlayacak mısın? Arka odaya geçelim.
Well, that gross comment from the actor Can Yaman has resulted in his new show being postponed by its producer. He made it on Spanish TV during a Q&A with fans and has been called out for his sexism on both Spanish and Turkish social media. A survivor of rape in India was on her way to court for a hearing about that crime when she was grabbed by a group of men, taken to a field and set on fire. She's now fighting for her life in hospital. 5 people, including 2 of the people originally accused of assaulting her, have been arrested. There are reported to be 92 violent sexual assaults every day in India. And these pictures of New Zealand's Mount aspiring glaciers show the normally bright white ice to be a dull pink, almost red. They were taken and shared by the travel blogger Liz Carlson. It's not totally clear why the glaciers are pink, but the speculation is that it could be caused by soot from the bushfires in Australia, or it could be dust blown from Australia, which has happened in the past. Either way, it sounds like it's Australia's fault. Well, Simon Cowell is a guy who created the TV show America's Got Talent. There's a version of it in nearly every country. The Turkish one is called Yetenek Sisiniz. Anyway, he is being investigated by the US network NBC because allegedly he's been allowing a toxic sexist culture to pervade his production company. Well, next up, dark tourism. It is a relatively recent thing where people decide to take holidays in places most people would avoid. They then show off their adventures on social media. The latest dark tourism destination, Syria.
Syria!
Welcome to Syria.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome to you in Syria.
أنا شخصيا مش قادر أصدق، لكن أنا هلأ في حارات دمشق القديمة.
This is the Syrian stamp. We got a visa for 15 days, and we are on our way towards Damascus.
Look at that. That's a sight in itself.
And as a traveler in Syria, I felt extremely privileged and extremely lucky about the fact that I was able to travel there pretty freely. Travel freely in a country that many people still haven't been able to return to.
Well, in 2016, after years of violence, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, the FARC, signed a ceasefire with the Colombian government. In 2017, they agreed to lay down their arms and enter politics, and now in 2019, they're doing fashion, sort of. Regan has the story.
They may look fierce on the catwalk, but some of these models were once fierce warriors. They're members of Colombia's FARC rebel group, which was embroiled in a 50-year conflict with the government. But these guerrillas are intent on showing their softer side.
Thanks to the peace agreement, we are here presenting our designs in the Senate with our own models. These products, these textiles, have been designed by our ex-combatants.
Under the peace deal brokered in 2016 with former President Juan Manuel Santos, the FARC handed in their weapons and entered politics. And they're using their talents in a different way to gain the population's trust.
This is very important because from the smallest, the most basic thing like fashion, which is clothing, which you identify each day with, you're contributing to the peace process.
But convincing people the groups are cut above their former selves isn't easy. The current president, Ivan Duque, still doesn't trust the former rebels. He's called for the arrest of some ex-FARC members.
We won't tolerate criminal structures, and I ratify the message that we are going to defeat these groups and persecute them.
But the FARC has been given some legitimacy under the 2016 accord, and former members know earning their place won't happen overnight. The task now, proving they aren't the fighters they once were.
Okay, we keep on spinning around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Thursday. Well, this is the aftermath of the Gadhimai festival in Nepal. It's a 2-day slaughter of animals and happens every 5 years. It began 200 years ago when a prisoner saw the goddess Gadhimai in his dreams and was told to offer her blood and establish a temple to her. And when he woke, his shackles were open and he was free. The festival is to give thanks to her and bring prosperity to adherents. Now, despite protests from animal rights activists, more than 6,000 buffalo and other animals were killed this year. The meat doesn't get eaten, the carcasses are simply left. Authorities in Samoa are placing red flags outside the homes of people who haven't been vaccinated against measles. An outbreak there has killed about 2% of the tiny island's population. Affected 2% of the island's population and killed more than 60 people. And now an anti-vax activist has been arrested for incitement against the government. Earlier this year, anti-vax conspiracy theorists, including Robert Kennedy Jr., traveled to Samoa for a conference. And this man, George Zimmerman, who fatally shot the unarmed teenager Trayvon Martin in 2012, is now suing Trayvon's family and lawyers for $100 million. Zimmerman says they used a fake witness against him in his murder trial, a charge he was acquitted of in 2013. Zimmerman's lawyer has experience with this kind of stuff. He's part of a group that filed a lawsuit falsely claiming that Barack Obama couldn't be president because he wasn't a natural-born citizen. And now it is World Turkish Coffee Day. So we looked at the history of this beverage, a United Nations sanctioned day of cultural heritage that is now into its 40th year. Have a look at this.
There are two stories about how coffee became part of Turkish culture. Coffee plants were exported from Ethiopia to Yemen in the 15th century. They made their way to Istanbul in the 16th century when an Ottoman governor of Yemen introduced the new beverage to Sultan Süleyman, who was very impressed by the new beverage. Then in the 17th century, Ottoman soldiers accidentally left sacks of coffee beans at the gates of Vienna. The Austrians found it and developed their own coffee style, which Western Europe adopted. In 1555, two Syrian traders brought the first coffee beans to Istanbul's bazaars and opened the first coffee houses in the city's commercial district. These coffee houses became a place for all social classes to interact, read, and support the arts. It has other cultural uses too. Turkish people have been using coffee grounds to tell their fortunes for centuries. Now, there's even an app that will do it for you. Coffee is also used as a test for a potential husband. When a young man and his parents make a customary visit to his future wife's family, his beloved will serve coffee with sugar to everyone, but she'll substitute sugar for salt in his cup only. He's then expected to drink it without flinching to prove his love. And as the Turkish saying goes, a bitter cup of coffee forms a bond lasting 40 years. So how is it made? Coffee beans are ground into a fine powder, then boiled until it bubbles into what is called a cezve. It's then served in a fincan with a glass of water and a piece of lokum. So, afiyet olsun.
That'll do you from the Newsfeed team. Do reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. Follow me on Twitter. See you tomorrow.